I want to talk to you today about the process of setting affections. Although all the gospel writers rushed their stories to get to the Passion Week, John got there fastest. He barely made it past the halfway marker of his gospel before he began to recount the events of the week of Jesus' crucifixion. And he told more of what happened in these days immediately after these climatic events than Matthew, Mark, or Luke. From John, we learn that Mary Magdalene encountered the risen Jesus in the garden, and of the events that forever attached the adjective doubting to Thomas's name. In chapter 21, John recounted the story of a number of disciples who, at least temporarily, had returned to their previous vocation of fishing. The risen Jesus visited them on the banks of the Galilee and reclaimed those disciples for ministry through a series of events and conversations. The approach of Jesus in this situation is instructive. He never rebuked the disciples for their lack of understanding, nor did he attempt to straighten out their thinking. Instead, he reached for the heart. In particular, 3 times he asked Peter this question: "Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these?" Perhaps this was the way Jesus showed us that right affections are more determinative to our actions than merely having right understanding. Author Stephen Land would certainly agree. In A Passion for the Kingdom, he suggests that orthopathy, or right feeling, not orthodoxy, right believing, or orthopraxy, right behaving, is at the center of the Pentecostal message. According to Land, right feeling drives both right behavior and right living. If by feeling Land means emotion, then his thesis is not on solid foundation. All of us have experienced the fickleness of emotions, either in ourselves or in people in our lives. Emotions change often, and for some people, emotions change quickly. Feelings fade. But if by feeling Land means religious affections, then he's on a much more solid ground. Paul admonishes the Colossians to set your affections on things above. The King James Version and a number of other versions translate the Greek word phroneo as affection. Some versions use the word mind in place of affection. Vine suggests that it's something to do with moral intention. Whatever its precise meaning, it means more than just thinking the right thoughts. Perhaps the best way to illustrate this distinction is by examining the difference between what we believe and what we value. Pretend with me that a couple, parents of 2 elementary school-aged boys, is having a conversation about the pastor's Sunday morning sermon. It was a message about being a godly father. A key point in the message was that it's difficult to have quality time with children without spending quantity time with them. The husband, convicted by the message, affirmed his belief that he needed to spend more time with his boys, so he was going to turn down any overtime at work. His wife, always concerned about the well-being of the family, was thrilled because she also believed the boys needed time with their dad. As a result of the sermon, the father rearranged his schedule to make sure he had significant time to spend with his boys. However, a few weeks later, the husband's boss asked him to take lead on a new project. He strongly hinted that a significant promotion and raise was tied to the successful completion of the project. Because of the demands of the project, the husband began to stay late and go on Saturday. If you could have asked him, he would affirm that he still believed that it was important to spend time with his boys, but he valued the promotion and the raise. The father illustrated that what we value always trumps what we believe. The question then is, how do we shape values? How do we impact the hearts of those we lead? This should be easy for Pentecostals. Our typical church service is experiential. Church without an altar call is atypical. However, when we shift our emphasis to a teaching environment, we shift our aim from the heart to the head. We dispense information rather than engaging the heart. For discipleship to be truly transformational, it must touch both the heart and the head. Perhaps the most effective method of touching the heart is by telling stories. Stories, especially stories built around similar themes, have a way of rewiring our values. If it's true that we shape the future by the stories we tell, then we must be intentional about telling the right stories. And in doing so, we can help this generation set their affections on things above.